John Fredericks, America's Godzilla of Truth. He's popular and proficient in picking politics with prophetic precision. And now J. Fred's picking sports. Are y'all ready for this? All across the airwaves and streams of the John Fredericks Media Network, John, Jack, and Nate, three guys that are pretty wise when it comes to picking winners. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, golf, UFC battles, you name it. When the game is on your mind and money's on the line, Godzilla Wins is your guide to picking winners. Before you make that play, hear what J. Fred has to say. Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Oh yeah, for entertainment purposes only.
Good morning. I guess we don't get any playing music today. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. I am your host, Nate Perry, joined by editor extraordinaire of GodzillaWins.com, Jack Fredericks, Mitch Rogers, contributor extraordinaire and general bon vivant and man about town, and Peter Kriebel joining us again. Thank you, Peter. We see that John sent you a background there, a little backdrop.
He did, yeah.
Kriebel. Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear the background stuff, or the play-in stuff. So, all right. Before we get going, I'd like to ask you to check us out on social media. We're at Godzilla Wins Big on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere that you get your socials. We have an account. It's the same across all platforms. Godzilla Wins Big, and we would love for you to give us a follow. All right. Important PSA here from John Fredericks, who is not joining us because he's in Doha at a conference talking to movers and shakers over there. It is important to note that he is no longer going to be on RAV. His show Outside the Beltway that formerly was broadcast on RAV is no longer on RAV, but you can still watch and listen live from 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, along with his entire morning show from 6 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday on the following platforms: John Fredericks Radio app. You can download that, or all 27 radio stations that you can find at johnfredericksradio.com. He's still broadcasting on Getter Live, X Live, YouTube Live, and Rumble Live. Also give him a follow on TikTok if you're so inclined at JF Radio Show. So that is that. So if you're wondering where to find John and you were hoping for a little Easter egg on his whereabouts now that he's been deplatformed off of RAV, that's where you can find him. And
you can pour one out for Outside the Beltway. I don't know how long it was. His show was on RAV, but rest in peace, I guess. RAV is one of those channels where, like if you have like DirecTV and you start going up to like the 900s and you hear like it's like Christmas music like on the TV, you just like hit like 987 and then the Feliz Navidad starts playing. It's like one of those channels. It's kind of up there. So if you're looking for it, just keep hitting the dial until you get to like 876 and you'll find it. But you're not going to find John Fredericks there anymore. He's gone. So catch him on TikTok.
Maybe for the time being, you never know. TikTok might be gone soon.
Yeah, that's true.
We have a loaded show. Conference championship week in college football. Obviously, we saw a couple games that we'll be talking about already on Friday or yesterday. There's a whole bunch of games today with big implications. The field looks mostly set, but still should be some shockers out there. All right. This is a gambling show. We're going to be giving out plenty of picks on this show. but it's for entertainment purposes only. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you live in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org if you're in Massachusetts. Call 877-GHOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY if you're in New York. 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Kansas or New Hampshire, 888-789-7777, or go to ccpg.org in Connecticut. It's 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or visit opgr.org if you're in Oregon. And finally, this show is brought to you by Native Path. Go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Feel better and live better. Collagen. We're all big believers in collagen. John's on the collagen. Jay's on the collagen. And the CEO of the company's on collagen. Jack's on collagen. I should be on collagen. Mitch and Peter have such beautiful, healthy, glowing skin that they don't need collagen right
I'm
now.
on everything else. Why not?
You're on everything else, though. Okay.
Some collagen in there. Let's go.
You may as well.
Not in that way. I mean, like, supplement wise.
Yeah, of course.
Calm down, everyone.
I don't know. So just go to Get Native Path. Go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Get up to 45% off, and you can get started for as low as $21. So go ahead and check out some collagen. We're all big believers on this show. It's made a big difference in John's life. So thank you, Healthy Cell, for being such a great partner.
Hey, Nate,
Okay.
why were all those disclaimers for the gambling hotlines in every town that has a college playoff host?
What's that?
I felt like all your disclaimers were in all college towns that are in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, they're going to need it today. Maybe a disclaimer more than.
Yeah.
Okay. So, start off the show. An issue near and dear to Jack's heart. Ole Miss just getting disrespected by the committee. It looks like there's basically one spot left in the playoff that's kind of open. That could be an at-large, and it looks like it for sure will never be Ole Miss. Jack, do you just want to take the lead and talk about why this is, why is Ole Miss always getting disrespected like this?
Yeah, so sometimes I'm told that I have trouble experiencing the full range of human emotions, but I do often get angry, and I was very angry about this a couple of days ago, and then I stopped caring. So I'm less angry. I can't get all pumped up for good radio and start yelling about Ole Miss, because the problem is, so the big deal here is Florida and Alabama and Ole Miss. They both have 3 losses. They both have similar records. They both have a similar resume. One of those teams happens to be Alabama, with the brand of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Nick Saban on College Game Day all the time or whatever. And then the other one is Ole Miss, which has never really been in a situation like this before. I mean, this is the college football expansion is 4 teams like Ole Miss, 4 teams like SMU, teams that really are just never going to be in the college football championship discussion otherwise. I don't think they're really 4 teams like Alabama. I mean, sure, Alabama deserves to get in, fine. But Alabama's going to be in the conversation all the time. And this just feels like another situation in which the committee is making sure to get all their big brands into this playoff spot, when I really don't see much of a difference between these 2 teams as far as the resume goes. And Alabama has looked, I think, pretty shaky, throughout the season. The issue with Ole Miss is the Kentucky loss, actually, which Kentucky's awful. I mean, they have 2 or 3 wins. That was a really bad loss. You can't defend it at all. There's nothing to say. There's 2. I mean, they have 2 other losses. One is to LSU in overtime, and the other one is to Florida after they beat Georgia. That was kind of a letdown game. But again, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. Not exactly killing it, though they have a better record than Kentucky, so that's to be noted. They lost to Oklahoma. Ole Miss blew out Oklahoma. Oklahoma stinks. Oklahoma's worse than Florida. And then they lost to, who's their third loss? They just lost to some. Well, no, they lost to Oklahoma. I'm blanking on the third one they lost to, but I know they have 3. Texas, maybe. I think they lost it anyway. Yeah, Texas, right? They're third. So and Texas is whatever like that. They're So anyway, there's I just wish that we were in a situation where I know Alabama is going to be in the conversation every year, and they're going to get in the playoff more than once. So in a year where they have 3 losses, if it's not going to be Ole Miss, put someone else in. Like, give us some more fun, because like
Miami
next year, maybe, I don't know. I mean, Miami, yeah, they
can't lose to the Cuse.
We should talk about that game in a minute. The Syracuse game. I know Peter's an ACC guy. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen a game in the Carrier Dome like that matters. And oh my God, that place is so hard to play in. Like, it was so loud in there, so shout out to the Cuse.
Yeah,
but
I've been
anyway,
there.
I mean, anyway, I don't know. I mean, again, I was really upset about this a couple days ago. And then I started thinking about how we lost to Kentucky and, whatever. And maybe there's a chance we still get in. Things can happen, but probably not.
Well, what's funny about it is you don't have like the heart of the nation behind you, because it's 2 SEC teams, trying to like root out who's going to be in. I think one thing is clear though. What needs to happen is I think the committees really need to focus on who you play, So I think that's happening. So the 3 lost teams, that's going to be a reality. SEC is going to get 3 lost teams in the future, just because they play tougher opponents, and we want them to keep playing tougher opponents. So they need to figure that out. But the Alabama, you're right. You're just parsing, right? I mean, they're common opponents. They were 3-1 or whatever. I would give the edge to common opponents because of the Georgia win to Ole Miss. So then you're looking at worst losses. So what's a worse loss? Kentucky being a 4-win team versus getting your doors blown off by a bad Oklahoma team a couple weeks before the season ends. And I think that's where a lot of people are arguing. They're saying, "Hey, that's a worse loss than at the beginning of the conference schedules. You lose to a Kentucky team that's a rival." Yeah, so and it does. I mean, but you're parsing. I mean, Lane Kiffin is going around saying the same thing. We do this to ourselves. Now I'm trying to parse between these stats here and there. So next year and he's got one of the best recruiting classes coming in. So he's saying he should be in, but he's saying also that loss to Kentucky is why they're not in. So, but yeah, the fact that it's 2 SEC teams, there's no one else really caring except for those 2 fan bases.
And go ahead, Peter.
Well, I would just say I don't look at it, as a ACC watcher, self-loathing ACC watcher here. I don't look at it and say, oh my gosh, Ole Miss should be in, because you lose a game to unranked Florida at the end of the year, and it's like it's questionable as to whether they actually belong in there. But I will say you make a strong argument with kind of the inconsistencies as it pertains to Alabama, because there's no reason for Alabama to be in, given that embarrassing loss to Oklahoma, when if you are going to say that if you wait at all how well you're playing at the end of the year, I mean, you choke a game like that, it's hard to really make that argument. So it's definitely brand coming into play.
Well, and look, like the on the flip side of that, this SEC, the argument that the SEC plays the tougher schedule is, to me, only valid, only convincing if you don't lose to teams that suck. So both Alabama and Ole Miss are like, well, we have a tough strength of schedule. And it's like, yeah, but you're not losing to the teams that are the reason you have a tough strength of schedule. You're losing to the teams that other people beat all the time. So at the same time, both these teams kind of need to look in the mirror and say, hey, listen, maybe this just isn't our year. And, Ole Miss, I knew the Florida loss was coming. I didn't say it on the radio, but I was kind of hesitant that was going to happen. I'm not surprised that Alabama lost to Oklahoma, mostly because I don't think Alabama's that good this year. Maybe what my larger argument is, we don't need Alabama in the playoff this year. Just give me another team that's fun, that's interesting, Colorado, Miami, whatever, just something else, because Alabama is going to be in the conversation in years going forward. This is a down year where we can have an expanded playoff and have a lot of fun with these other teams. And we're still talking about oh, Alabama gets the 12th seed because they beat Georgia, Georgia,
yeah, I mean, we've never experienced a 12-team playoff either. So I'm still in that mindset, it's only 4 teams and it's do or die. This team needs to get in. But when it's the 12th spot, Bama's going in every time. for over anyone that there's a tiebreaker on, or a team that's popular, like a Colorado, if they were right on that line right now, would go in, and it's because it's good for business, I would think.
And this is all just like the nature of like these like committee sort of bids, right? Like where there's not like a hard, fast system like there is in professional sports. It's like, because we complained about it when it was 4 teams. We were like, well, this team should have been the 4th team in. We complained about it during the NCAA tournament time when they're at large bids and you're like, I can't believe VCU got in again, like, or whatever. There's just, and the disrespect to Syracuse or whatever. So there's always something.
Like, why didn't my school play on Monday night at 9 p.m.?
Exactly.
Damn it.
So there's always a thing. And that's just sort of, I guess how it goes. And like, honestly, like all of this conversation is probably for naught if Clemson just like if Clemson wins today, right? Because SMU probably still gets in with a loss. Indiana's probably in, and that's basically the whole thing. Like,
and they could. Clemson could win that game.
Yeah. So, we might not even have that much to argue about because I don't think that, anyone's sort of going to push back on this idea that SMU, even with the loss today, shouldn't be in, and probably Indiana should be in too. So, from that perspective, like it seems like a lot of the hard work of the committee has already been sort of decided. There's maybe one spot up for grabs, and maybe even not that one. So, but a fun conversation anyways. All right. So as we look at the playoff, it's worth sort of thinking about rosters cost a lot of money these days. If you want to win in the college football playoff, it's going to cost you, if you want to make it for sure, like Ohio State, where you just win despite some unusual coaching decisions. It costs you about $20 million to get that team out on the field. And with that $20 million in NIL money that you're spending, there comes some expectations. Making the playoff isn't good enough. You really need to pretty much almost guarantee a national championship. Otherwise, people are going to be upset. And Ryan Day is kind of being a square target for people that have put a lot of money into football lately, into college football, and maybe is going to get fired despite making the playoff and despite maybe even winning a game in the playoff. Like there's still some unrest. So should Ryan Day be on the hot seat? I guess whoever wants to answer.
Yeah, I think he absolutely should be on the hot seat. Are you kidding me? Like, that loss was ridiculous. I mean, like, let's stop pretending that Ryan Day is somehow this like good coach. He does this kind of crap all the time. He has one of the most, if not the most expensive roster in college football. He has one of the biggest brands. He has a program that expects to compete and win national titles. They have done that. They will continue to do that. And yet he can't beat Michigan. And it's not like, Harbaugh's gone. Michigan sucked this year. They were awful. Like, awful. Now, I know it's rivalry week, whatever. Like, they always get up for Ohio State.
Coming off like a bazillion sanctions after Harbaugh just put them in shambles too. Like, so they're not even like,
with a coach who's going to get fired at some point, not this year. But, he's 1-4 against Michigan. This was the worst loss, of course. Ohio State kicker missed 2 field goals. I know that hurt them, et cetera, et cetera. But the way I'm looking at this, I think he should be on the hot seat. And if I was Ohio State, I'd get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. And my initial thought was, well, everyone's kind of getting in on the Ryan Day hate train. And so I was looking at it and I'm like, well, is there any way we could give him some grace? And I did think about Harbaugh. I think naturally that's kind of where your mind goes in that rivalry. And Harbaugh started 0-5 versus Ohio State. But then I'm thinking, this is a $20 million roster. Like, there's no excuse. And Michigan is bad. Michigan is disappointed at every turn this year. And so it's not even just like rival. There's absolutely no reason. Like, you just can't justify a loss like this. So I think, yeah, it's time.
Yeah, I mean, Harbaugh. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say it's to be determined. I mean, if he goes into the playoff and loses spectacularly in the first round, yeah. But if you go and win a national title or play in the national title game, I just can't see, because of your record against your biggest rival of firing your coach. But, it just depends. And also depends, who knows who's in waiting. I know the Urban Meyer stuff is kind of out there, but if there's someone else the boosters are in love with and waiting, that's a big deal too. So that factors in. But if you go and win a national title and fire a head coach, I hope that just hell wraths fury on you for the rest of your collegiate lives, and along with Penn State. I hate them all in the Big Ten anyway. Let's go.
Yeah, look, I mean, nobody's getting fired if they win a national championship.
And they could. They could win.
They could. I mean, I don't think they will, but they could. I think for me, the big thing with this is when you look at the Harbaugh analogy, like the Harbaugh comparison, Harbaugh did struggle against Ohio State, but I don't remember Ohio State ever fielding a team this mediocre as Michigan when Harbaugh was there. I mean, who was the coach? Urban Meyer, right? I mean, like, they were competing for national championships every year, and Michigan had such a bad run of coaches, including Rich Rodriguez, your guy from West Virginia, right? Shout out to Rich Rod.
He might be back, baby. Watch out.
Yeah, you never know.
He might be back this week.
Yeah, you never know. So like I think it's apples to oranges in that situation. Harbaugh turned that team around and then all of a sudden started owning the rivalry, and he started owning the rivalry when Ryan Day was hired after the Urban Meyer sort of fiasco ended at Ohio State. So I don't think that is a totally like fair comparison. Mitch, I think, does bring up a good point though. Like, I mean, who are you going to hire, right? Like if you're just looking to beat Michigan, he beats everybody else. And he's with this expanded college football playoff. Like, who cares if you beat Michigan? As long as you have 1 or 2 losses, you're going to get into the college football playoff. So like in that situation, maybe, but I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, our listeners know this. If you're up there in that area, in that kind of Columbus, Ann Arbor corridor, this is all they care about. They don't care about anything else. I mean, losing to Michigan constantly over and over again, that is all they care about in Columbus. And that's true of a lot of these rivalries, but specifically in this one, everybody watches this game. It is the rivalry. And to have him just put up another dud where they can't, they're frustrated, they can't get the ball, can't move the ball, they can't kick a field goal. They're at home. I mean, they're at home and they lose this game. Ryan Day is always going to disappoint you in these ways. He beat Indiana. I mean, he blew out Indiana, and then he had a letdown game. That was predictable. I mean, I think we could have all probably predicted a letdown game here. Ryan Day is one of those coaches where he's not going to have his team ready to fight every week.
I wonder what makes the difference for that coach. I mean, because I bet you all the kids, I mean, a lot of kids, those are legacies, and they've been part of this rivalry from their parents. So obviously game day, obviously they had to all be nervous. It's a very tough game, but it's how do you wrangle those, good Ohio State is the much better team, to let their emotions, put those to the side and then go out there because, I mean, it's not all Ryan Day's fault. I mean, his players didn't show up, for 3 quarters. So, but the fact that he is even on the table to be fired just shows you how big of a deal that game is. And when you got seniors there that are going to go 0-4 now. Yeah, I mean, so I get it.
It is. I just think of it as kind of a weird example of like narrative seemingly actually having bearing on the football game. Like we build up these rivalry things and how much of it does it really matter? But I don't know. I've seen enough Ravens Steelers to know like it does. Like, and they're only a select few, definitely fewer than there used to be. But yeah, like when a team has a psychological upper hand, like it appears Michigan does, it doesn't matter how much has been invested into the roster. It's like it's bizarre.
And how do those committees factor that in? I mean, there's all these SEC people bring up a really good point. Like when you go into play Kentucky at night, I don't care if they're a 3-win team, they kind of move to like a 6-win team. When you go to play Michigan at Michigan or at Ohio State, those games become, even I know they're bad, but are they bad losses? I mean, the committees have a lot. There's a lot to weigh in, especially with the bigger teams that are in the Power Four, because they do play more meaningful games. So is that even a bad loss? I mean,
I think it's a worse loss than Miami. I think Miami, Syracuse. Syracuse is like a pretty tough team. I think had Georgia Tech beaten Georgia, I would say Georgia Tech. That's not as bad a loss. I mean, Georgia Tech is a tough team. Michigan just isn't that good this year, and they've shown that over and over again. And they're at home. and they can't get it done against a team that they should have beaten by 30 points with a $20 million roster. And that's the other thing that we're going to have to keep talking about. Like, NIL means money. If you're going to spend money, you can't lose to Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, right? And if this playoff doesn't happen this year, if they stick with the 4 teams for one more year, then it's almost certain that Ryan Day gets fired, right? Because this probably knocks him out of a 4-team playoff, and he's for sure like on the chopping block. Like that much is like absolutely certain. So in some ways, it's kind of fortunate that everything expanded, got a little money in there, and now he's like, well, all right, at least we made the playoff, or whatever, because that would have been almost for sure. No. Otherwise, I keep seeing the stat like Ryan Day, and I've been thinking about it, and a lot of people are like, oh, big game day, like he's like 2-5 against top 5 ranked teams or whatever, and people throw that around like it's an insult, but like, isn't that don't you just lose to a lot of top 5 teams if you're like in college football for long enough? I feel like if I went through like the total roster of elite coaches, like there's probably not that many people that are better than 500 against top 5 teams. Right. You just win and lose them. Like that's how that goes. So I don't really even know if that's like, this idea that you can't win big games. I mean, you just lose to good teams. That's like how football is.
And does the Ohio State job ever end well for anybody except for maybe Urban sometimes, depending on which time? Like, it's just weird. Yeah, that's a job. Like, I know it's a great place, but man, it's just a tough job to do well at.
I don't know where the ranking, like where the bracket is going to fall with Ohio State, but if they end up playing someone like Tennessee, like I think they're in trouble, like for real. I don't know. Like if they're playing Alabama, I might not be worried. Maybe whoever wins the Big 12 gets in there. Although we're about to talk about how Arizona State's going to make some noise here, so maybe I'll save that take. But I mean, depending on who they match up against, they might end up getting a win and then getting blown out by Oregon in the second round or something. So I guess we'll see how that kind of shakes out. But if depending on who they play, they could be out in the first round, and then I think Ryan Day's job is on the table.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. All right, we got to break down some games here. You may have noticed that John hasn't been taking up any of the airwaves today. That is because he's in Doha, and I'm sure he is using the heck out of Healthy Cell REM sleep as he travels the globe. He's a big believer. He needs his beauty sleep. He's up early Monday through Friday. He's traveling the world. I don't even know what time zone Doha is in, but it's far away from here, and he's going to have to come back to the United States and adjust his sleep schedule all over, and REM sleep will be critical. Go to healthycell.com/Godzilla. Promo code Godzilla gets you 20% off. Supports all 4 phases of healthy sleep, all natural, non-addictive. Big believers on the show of Healthy Cell REM sleep. Okay, we got some games to talk about now. We're going to start with another game that is near and dear to Jack's heart. This is the Big 12 championship that we all expected when the season kicked off. All of us had this just right on our thing. We thought Iowa State and Arizona State are going to be playing in the Big 12 championship with meaningful playoff implications. One of these teams is going to play in the playoff. And right now, the lines are everywhere for this game. More or less consensus looks like Iowa State plus 1.5, Arizona State minus 1.5 for the Big 12 championship game. I mean, it's an exciting game. We've talked about how much, me and Jack have talked about how much we like the coach for ASU, seems, kind of like the new modern coach. Really fun stuff what they've been doing. But can they go all the way, Jack? Can they? Arizona State.
Well, okay. So before we get there, yeah, absolutely. But before we get there, tell our listeners who haven't been following along with this Arizona State stuff why you think he's like a model for the modern day kind of younger coach.
So he's done a lot. Just in terms of we talked about this. I think, I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but we definitely talked about it with each other. He received, $200,000 bonus when he hit 9 wins. And just went around all his staff and was like, we've had a really great season. Everyone's going to get a bonus. And these are people work in the clubhouse, just sort of support staff. And he's like, yeah, everyone's getting a $5,000 or $10,000 bonus. And he basically gave it out of his $200,000 bonus check. He just cut those checks himself to all of his staff. And basically gave the whole thing away, which was huge. And I think cool leadership. But But there was a lot in this article that I was reading about him being sort of like the new modern coach, and that he's just sort of embraced the NIL. Like he's been able to embrace sort of both sides of developing players and, coaching up players, but also sort of embracing this NIL. He goes to a press conference and he pops his shirt and it's like their big NIL fund at Arizona State, let everyone know where they can give money to. And he's just sort of been able to sort of, I think, harness like the best of both worlds in ways that we've seen other coaches sort of struggle. We've seen, guys like Dabo Swinney obviously really struggle with the NIL landscape. And then we've seen the reverse sort of side of it where it's like Dion is like NIL or nothing. And sometimes he doesn't build the most complete teams in Colorado. So it's like, for whatever's going on here, like they seem to have figured it out at Arizona State for right now, and sort of are setting themselves up, for like more future success. Because when he got that team, like Herm Edwards had ruined it. Like everything was ruined. Like Arizona State football was like totally irrelevant. And now here they are about to make the playoff. Maybe.
Yeah, in 1 year, he's turned it around. So the Fighting Kenny Dillinghams are definitely out. I mean, Arizona State has a tradition of like winning. I mean, in the Pac-12, they weren't winning conference championships, but they were always kind of a tough team until Herm Edwards came there and totally ruined the whole program. So to see them turn this around, I think it speaks to Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State, and less like just maybe the way that the Big 12 is maybe like a little not so tough this year. But as far as this game goes, ASU Iowa State, I saw Iowa State play last week. They looked pretty good. I think it was Kansas State they were playing. But of course, I'm going with ASU. I'll take them -1.5. I believe ASU is 7-0 ATS when favored this year. They blow teams out. They score a lot of points. I'll take the over 2. And whatever Cam Skatibo's rushing props are, I'm taking that. Going to be a huge game here for the Sun Devils. I think they end up winning this game, and I'm hoping that they win in such a statement that they sneak into the 12th spot here in the playoffs with a couple other things shaken up. And we get like a really fun story at that 12th spot. This like really enigmatic coach and this team that got turned around so quickly in the college football playoff. Cause that's why that's why we have the football playoff, I think.
Yeah, I mean, ASU is legit. I mean, the quarterback, Sam Leavitt, he transferred from Michigan State, and that's only because their coach left. I mean, so he was definitely poised to be their next quarterback. So going over there, getting freshman of the year, but Scatabo at running back is tremendous, and he can control a game for all 4 quarters. So I like him too. I hope they win today, and then and then make some noise in the playoffs. It does look like a fun team, but don't sleep on Iowa State. They're a pretty darn good team, and they were the story of college football only a couple years ago, and they've had a pretty nice bowl run here in the last 4 years. So, but I'm gonna roll with you guys with the Arizona State today.
I think, Nate, everything you and Jack hit on about the program trending upward is true. The only thing I'll say, and why I'm going to Iowa State in this one, is they're without their number 1 receiver, Jordan Tyson, and I think that matters. If you can make them one-dimensional, I know Skativa is a good player, but it's going to pose football problems as far as, even if it's a great program, it's hard to win without your wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I mean, and for, as well positioned as I think Arizona State is for this game, I mean, in terms of just like betting the matchup, like I kind of like Iowa State as well. I kind of think that this just feels like a game that Iowa State is more suited to win. Some defensive advantages, they played K-State and Utah pretty late in the season, and neither team really rushed very well against them. I think that if there was something that ASU could exploit, it was probably on the ground against Iowa State, but it seems like Iowa State is sort of starting to sort of figure that out and pairing it with their already elite sort of pass defense. So, in terms of defensive advantage, I think that it's clearly Iowa State. So I think I'll roll with the Cyclones here. But in my heart, I'll still be happy if
look, as Peter said, don't fight the narrative. This is a narrative game, baby. This is one of those things where things are just going to go wrong, and ASU is going to end up winning because of the narrative. We're going to get them in that 12th spot. It'll be a lot of fun.
It will be fun. I mean, I'm looking forward to watching games all day, even games that maybe sometimes we didn't know we'd be excited about watching. Like if you're just doing nothing and you got ESPN on, what you're going to be watching today is the MAC championship.
Yeah, got some bricks laying around. Battle bricks.
Yeah. Ohio Bobcats taking on the Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio is a -2.5 point favorite. It's a pretty close line game. Neither team is ranked. We got to think about. I mean, with a slate this small, if you're betting the games, you really just got to think about betting every one. So how are we betting this one?
I mean, Miami of Ohio
Well,
they've run the MAC, right? They've won 15 MAC championships. Like, feels like
They run the MAC.
Yeah, Peter, give us some inside scoop on the Miamis.
I mean, I've been grinding the Miami of Ohio tape all week long.
Yeah.
This is a game we've all been waiting for, the culmination of a great MAC season, and I gotta say, I couldn't even say that with a straight face, but I think this is one where Miami of Ohio gets it done because they finish drives, and that matters.
This is one of those games where you're like, we'll talk about the other one in a minute too, where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm all in on this game. Let me put a little money on the spread here, turn on ESPN, get some pretzels, and then like after 3 drives, you're like, what else is on? And then you kind of come back to it in the second quarter. You're like, oh man, it's still kind of close. And then you watch like a Christmas movie, and then you come back in the fourth quarter. And you're like, oh, Miami of Ohio won. So, these games are tough to be engaged the entire time. I mean, no disrespect to the MAC. We all love the MAC, but it can be tough to watch 2 teams that you haven't watched all year. And it can be even more difficult to bet them. So unless you do your research, don't just be throwing away money on teams you don't know anything about. That would be my disclaimer. But I like Miami of Ohio. I think I'm going to go with the point spread there. They're favored by 2.5. So I'll take Miami of Ohio to win the MAC.
The real Miami, right? That's what they always claim, that they were the first Miami college.
Yeah, isn't that Ben Roethlisberger's alma mater?
He's the other one. Yeah, he's Miami. He's
Yeah.
the other one. Yeah, Miami. Yeah, he's Miami Red. What are they? The Red Hawks.
The Red Hawks. The Red Hawks. Yeah, and this is actually a rivalry game. It's called the Battle of the Bricks when they play it, when it's not the MAC championship, but now they're doing the Battle of the Bricks as the MAC championship. So it's actually like a weird in-state rivalry.
Yes.
Why is it the Battle of the Bricks?
I have no. We don't have time to go down the rabbit hole of Battle of the Bricks, I don't think. But
all my phones just went off, my tablets.
Okay, so I guess I like Miami of Ohio too. They played pretty well lately. They've won 7 straight. Nobody can seem to score very much against them, so why not take the defensive team? I guess. Welcome, Jay, to the show. Jay Delsing, welcome.
What's up, boys? Good morning. Sorry, I'm a little late.
That is all right.
Just in time for Marshall.
You must have heard us talking. You must have heard us talking Miami of Ohio, and you're like, I got to get in on this, Mr. Midwest here. You must have a bet on the Miami of Ohio game.
My son-in-law went to Miami of Ohio, so
See, I knew it.
I'm gonna play the other side.
Son-in-law, bad Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's great, but yeah, he likes them way too much. I gotta have something. I've got to have something.
So we welcome Jay to the show just in time for the Sun Belt Championship. Sun Belt Championship. Marshall, Thundering Herd are playing the Ragin' Cajuns, University of Louisiana. Marshall is a 6-point underdog. The Ragin' Cajuns are favored by 6 in this game. No playoff implications here. Whoever wins this just had a really nice season. It'll go to a fun bowl game. But they're not going to make the playoff. But if we're just looking for something to watch, what are we thinking about betting tonight?
All right. So I have a nugget on this one.
Oh, okay.
Marshall
West Virginia guy.
Marshall is. I hate Marshall, by the way. Marshall is the most profitable college football team to bet on all season long. They are 10-1-1 against the spread this year. And so that's it. There's my nugget. Load up the turds. Oh,
Thundering Herd.
I'm sorry.
So that must be a West Virginia thing, right?
We're creative.
Yeah, the only thing I know about Marshall is that like 15 years ago, Matthew McConaughey did a movie, right? Where like some sort of Marshall movie where he was the coach of Marshall.
Man. Oh, yeah, why are you bringing that up?
Yeah. That's the only thing I know about Marshall. Is the Matthew McConaughey when he brought him to the big screen after that tragedy. So I'll take Yeah, Randy Moss went there. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They're green and white. I can tell you their colors are green and white.
Chad
That's-
Pennington and Randy Moss, they wrecked
Yeah.
shop in 1997.
Yeah. Look, I'll go with Marshall 10-2 against the spread. How can you how can
10
you
1
beat
and
that?
1, 4 and 0 as an underdog.
Oh.
Again,
Oh my
also,
God.
undefeated as an underdog.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to bet against the trends. I mean, you got to take Marshall. I mean,
What
yeah,
could go wrong? Nothing. No.
10-1 and 1 against the spread, covered every time as an underdog. Let's go. I love that. So yeah, I'm on Marshall. Anybody else?
I don't know. I think anytime you get to bet the Raging Cajuns, you take that opportunity. So I hear your stats and I raise you a cool and funny name.
Okay. All right. I'm in that. James Carville
Where is-
will be betting on the Cajuns.
Where is the? Are they in Shreveport? No,
They're in Lafayette.
I don't know where. Lafayette. Yeah, lot of passion for
Where's
football
this
in
game taking
Lafayette.
place? Do we know?
It is.
No, we don't know.
We don't.
None of us know, Jay, where this game is played.
I don't know where it's played either. I'm going Marshall.
It's in the Rose Bowl, I think.
What the heck? Probably. You ever seen a
I don't
empty
know.
Rose Bowl? Watch this game.
I'll ask ChatGPT. Where is the Sun Belt Championship being played?
Nobody
It's,
knows.
They say Lafayette, but ChatGPT is often wrong.
Oh, it's just a home game.
So, a home game for Louisiana.
That is, God, why is it so hard for us to find? Well, what's not hard to find is Rosie's Gaming Emporium. You can find them everywhere in Virginia. While we all look for information, you don't need to look hard to find a Rosie's, and it is so much fun. Best payouts, best jackpots, longtime sponsor of the show. We love Rosie's. Lowest takeouts per the state legislature and all of their wisdom. You're going to win more money at Rosie's than you are anywhere else in America. So do yourself a favor and stop into a Rosie's. Not only is it a great gaming experience, tons of fun to gamble, also great food. If you're there for racing season, you can catch a horse race as well. It is just a fun place to go have a little time. So check out Rosie's next time you are in Virginia. All right. We got the ACC championship. This one's actually like a meaningful, like, real game. Like, whoever wins this, like, for sure, like, Clemson can for sure go to the playoff if they win. It looks like SMU probably is in already, but it's not a sure thing if they lose. So, this has sort of real fringy sort of, implications in terms of seeding towards the bottom end. Clemson is a small underdog. I believe it's still around 2.5. SMU is a 2.5-point favorite. I guess, like, we'll lead with Peter. I mean, Peter's sort of the ACC guy. Peter, like, tell us a little bit about this game and sort of what you're going to be looking for.
Yeah, covering Virginia football this season, I got a chance to see SMU in person, and then had to watch the Tigers beat down on us on TV. So I've seen both of these teams, and kind of through that lens, I think Clemson has just inexplicably not delivered at points in this year. I think they are a good football team. I think they got a tough draw in Georgia in week 1, and they've had a tougher schedule than SMU. SMU has run through the ACC. All credit to them. But I think pitting the two against each other, I think they're comparable as clearly the best two teams in the ACC. And then I just look at it as Clemson has more to gain. Clemson has had a more recent, wake-up loss. I think that matters, and I think that they've just underperformed. And if they put it together, they could easily win this game, and I think they will.
So this is I'm kind of with Peter on this, because I think, and we're going to talk about this with the Georgia game too, I think Clemson's way undervalued here because of the loss last week. And so you get a couple points again, and you get to take a team that has looked pretty okay this year, other than a couple sort of difficult losses, and a team that at least has a coach who's been in this position before, is used to this type of game, and with a win, as Peter said, may end up, I think Nate said this, may end up in the college football playoff. They have a lot to gain. It looks like SMU is going to win or lose, they're going to end up in the college football playoff, which doesn't mean that they're not going to be motivated. I absolutely think they will. I just kind of like the 2.5. I think it'll be close. I also sort of like the over. Both these teams score a lot. And they play pretty quick. So I know the over's high. It's like at 55, but I kind of want to take the over. But I think Clemson's kind of overvalued here based on that loss last week. And I don't really know if they're going to lose 2 in a row. If they do, then I think we have to have a more robust conversation about what's going on in South Carolina with Dabo Swinney as well. Because this is really a game that they should win, or at least if they lose, be pretty competitive. If they get blown out, then I think we have to have that discussion. But we can always do that next week because we have a radio show.
That's true. This game's really interesting. I mean, SMU was picked to finish, 7th or 8th in the conference for a reason, and that's talent. I mean, Jennings is playing above. They've made some good moves in the portal. Jennings is playing above, and coaching has been great. So I believe they've been playing above their board all season long, but I mean, with great efficiency. I mean, but Clemson still ranks. I was looking at like total team composition. They rank like 5th overall right now. There's only 3 other rosters that have better talent than them. So I think at some point that comes to a head, right? Like South Carolina is a loss recent, but 9-3. I just think Clemson's talent is better, and at some point that overtakes SMU, and I want to see a college shakeup, even if that means my boys at Bama have to suffer. But I just want to see a shakeup. So I'm going Clemson beating SMU, and then we've got some fun, when those when they have to figure out who's in the playoff.
Okay, are you going to take them on the money line?
Let's do it. 2 units.
All right, there we go.
Money line.
Two whole units, baby.
You don't know what my 2 mortgage payments. You don't know. You have no idea what my unit is.
I know it's not 2 mortgage payments.
No, white.
No, it's not. Where's your wife?
Yeah, I'm kidding. She's looking at me now.
Guys, I have a nugget. Clemson is 8-1 in their previous 9 ACC title games. This will be their 10th. Both teams can run the ball. It's going to be interesting. SMU's entire planet revolves around their quarterback, and he's had a great year. But I got to believe Dabo's going to be able to dial something up to contain him some. So I hate to go with you guys, and we're going to sweep Clemson all the way across the board, but I like Clemson too.
Oh, I like Clemson too.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought Texas guy. I thought maybe you'd go with a little Texas love there, even though I know you
got
hate
much love for SMU.
Dallas. Yeah.
No, I like Clemson here. I mean, Dabo's been there. He's done it. From like just like a coaching edge, I think that, Dabo's, got a lot of deficiencies, but in terms of getting guys up for a big game,
is he using the portal yet? Is he using? Can you remember like last year, he wasn't using nil money or the portal. He was trying to go old school raw dog, but you can't. He has to be using it now. Right?
He's getting like a real team together, and SMU's got an extremely expensive team too. I mean, they basically had to forego $200 million in television revenue over the next 9 years to be able to join the ACC, and the donors just immediately threw $100 million at the school and were like, "Don't worry about it."
Well, SMU's been spending money since before it was cool, so they know how to do this.
They know how this works.
They also got the death penalty before anything. No one had ever heard of it.
Get out my Dickerson jersey. Let's go.
They had to create new penalties for SMU football. So that's they didn't know what to do. They were just like, you guys can't do this anymore. You can't have football. Okay. So we got a couple more games. We still got the big SEC championship coming up. We got the Big Ten championship coming up. But before we do that, we are going to be recording all of our best bets. And we just want to remind you to follow us on our socials. It's Godzilla Wins Big on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, probably. I'm sure we have a Getter one too. We have social media everywhere. We're all at Godzilla Wins Big. So please go ahead and give us a follow and check out our best bets segment right after this show as well. All right, the SEC championship that we probably may have actually expected to happen. Georgia back again in the SEC championship. Big surprise. They're number 5th ranked. They're coming in with a 10-2 record versus number 2 ranked Texas, 11-1. All they've done is pretty much just beat everybody. Texas is a 3-point favorite here. What do we make of this game? I mean, Jack's the SEC guy. I don't know if he wants to start or if somebody else does.
Yeah, Georgia. Look,
Got to be Georgia, right?
yeah. I mean, first of all, this is in Atlanta. Don't underestimate that. I mean, obviously Texas fans travel, but I mean, it's a home game for Georgia. Essentially, a lot of Georgia fans in that area. So there's that. This is just too big a moment, I think, for Texas. We've seen them falter this season in these moments before. And man, you get some real value because if Georgia had come out and blown the doors off of Georgia Tech, this spread might be closer to like Texas minus 1. So you get 3 points for a Georgia team that I think is going to be fine in this game. They looked awful for the first 2 quarters of the Georgia Tech game, but that was always a trouble spot for them. Georgia Tech is a pretty tough team this year. I think we're sleeping a little bit on these sort of mid-level ACC teams that have been really difficult to play at times. And so I think with the 8 overtimes and maybe Georgia's going to lose to Georgia Tech, blah, blah, blah. I think you get a lot of value here at that +3. And I just nobody's going to convince me that Texas all of a sudden knows how to win with this kind of spotlight. If they do it, then fine. But I think they probably lose this game here. But I'm not confident enough to take the money line, so I'll just take the +3. I like Georgia. They're here all the time. And Carson Beck looked really good last week. They just couldn't figure out how to stop the option and get the ball back. But he looked great, So I think they win this game.
I don't think you can take the revenge factor component out of it. I mean, Georgia blew the doors off of Texas earlier this year, but they had 10 sacks doing it. I think they shore up that. I don't think that happens this time around. And Texas is rolling. I mean, that game last week, I mean, I know we try to hey, it's Georgia Tech, 8 overtimes, but you should beat Georgia Tech. I like Texas as a hotter team. Texas feels like the 2021 Georgia team, like an awesome defense and an offense that just ho-hums to 40 points whenever it feels like it. Texas has that feel of a team that wants to win this whole thing. Georgia, I think at the revenge factor, I just think Texas takes this one on a neutral field. Is it neutral? Oh yeah, it's in Atlanta. And by the way, don't worry about that. I saw West Virginia whip Georgia's ass in the Sugar Bowl in Atlanta. So whatever, Georgia fans, they're nothing. Let's go, Texas.
That was a long time ago.
It was like 2005. So what?
That's 20 years.
Katrina moved the Sugar Bowl to Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the game.
Pat White, come on, man. Rich Rodriguez.
I remember Katrina. Yeah. I don't remember that game.
Yeah, that was
fake field goal.
Who was their coach that they hated? Who went to Miami? That was always losing those big games. I forget their Georgia coach at that time. It'll come to me in a minute. It'll come to me.
Mark Richt.
Yeah, Mark Richt. That's right. He was always doing that. So this is not Mark Richt, Georgia football. So
it's the same fans.
Kirby Smart.
It's the first
fans. They're just 20 years old and
Carson Beck threw three picks, and Georgia still took him to behind a woodshed. I don't know what to make of it because I don't know if Ellers is not quite 100%. I know he's still dealing with that ankle, and they've got that Manning kid sitting on the bench over there. So it's intriguing. I've never been a Texas fan. I've never been a UT fan. Georgia plays a brutal schedule. Nobody's schedule in college football can compare to what Georgia plays. So I feel like they've been playing almost a playoff type game, a meaningful game for a month and a half now. So, man, I think the edge goes to Kirby Smart in these games. And I'm not a Carson Beck fan. Just not. He has looked really, really underwhelming most of this year. So I like points in this game though, boy. I think I'm going to take the points.
Take Georgia.
I did see a lot of social media posts that Carson Beck's really busy on Snapchat. So, maybe that's a problem.
He's been his receivers drop everything. That's the problem. Nobody catches his pass.
They do. But listen, Texas, I don't understand. I mean, I understand the love for Texas A&M sort of. They beat them by 10. They beat Vanderbilt by 3. Okay, that's it. You have to take that into consideration if you're just like, oh yeah. Vanderbilt's good. Maybe they're good. Maybe they're not. They escaped Nashville with a field goal win. Then they beat Florida. They stink. They beat Arkansas. They stink. They beat Kentucky. Like they beat Mississippi State. They beat Oklahoma. Like for an SEC schedule, it's not as though Texas was facing a lot of teams that were really sort of we respect. There's no Alabama here. I mean, there's Georgia. There's no Ole Miss on this schedule. I mean, Texas A&M, sure, but for an SEC schedule, it could have been a lot worse for them this year. So I mean, rolling or not, I don't know. I like Georgia.
I mean, I'm not like finger on the pulse of Texas football guy, but I feel like I can usually read the vibes for like Texas football. And I can remember that this, like, because to speak a little bit more to Jack's point, like this was the big spot on Texas's schedule, really. Like realistically, like the Georgia game during the regular season was like the big game. And I remember talking to Jack about it. I probably talked about it on the show. And it's like, I don't remember a time that Texas has won like a game that they had circled on a calendar. It just doesn't happen for that team. They just come out flat. I don't know if it's weird expectations, if there's like too much pressure on them, but they never seem loose. They're always tight. They came out tight against Georgia. They played like garbage. And I don't think that like now is the time that suddenly Texas just figures out how to win in these big moments. I mean, Kirby Smart gets his team ready for these things. He knows how this happens. And I just don't see that level of comfort with Texas in these big moments yet. But maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe it's just like me being like a Texas hater, but that's kind of how I've been watching it.
I think you said it. I mean, this whole season we've kind of propped up Texas as, the SEC frontrunner. And the reality is, I don't know that there is one. I think the SEC now has so much parity where it just kind of depends who's playing who. Like teams play one another differently based on matchups. And if that 15-30 beatdown was any indication, then Georgia matches up well with Texas. And I think also what you're saying about expectations is like Georgia has a couple losses, and I think sometimes that's good for a team. Yeah. I remember Drew Brees saying in his Super Bowl season, like the most important thing for them was losing in an embarrassing game on Monday Night Football, because it's like you just get rid of the expectations of an undefeated season, go out and play. You know what that loss feels like. And yeah, I trust Georgia in this one 100%.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this just feels like a Georgia game. I mean, so, all right.
It feels like it comes down to quarterback play, right? Whichever quarterbacks, because they both sucked the last game, right? Like 3 turnovers for Beck and 2 fumbles for Ewers.
Yeah, I mean, it was a mess of a game. So, we'll see. I mean, I just feel like Georgia wins the ugly ones a lot easier than Texas does. All right, last game on the schedule. We just have a few minutes to talk about it. The big one that a lot of people will be watching, this is the Big Ten Championship. Number 3 ranked Penn State takes on number 1 ranked Oregon. Oregon's working on a perfect season. They are done nothing but go 12-0. Penn State also had a great season themselves, went 11-1, and increasing the difficult Big Ten. Oregon's a 3.5-point favorite. Like, how do we? I mean, I'll just say it right now. Like, I kind of like Penn State here, plus the points. But that's just, I think, just
why.
But over 3. At some point, James Franklin is going to do something in a big moment.
No,
right?
he's not. No, he's not.
He's been in this spot like so many times. At some point, he succeeds. I mean, he's won a Big Ten before.
Against Dan Lanning and Oregon, this 3.5 is a gift. I would play this up to 6. This is going to be one of those games that is over in the second quarter. Penn State is nowhere near the talent level of Oregon. Oregon is the best team in the country. They are going to blow out Penn State in this game. Like, this is such a layup, guys. Do not overthink this. James Franklin he never comes through in these moments. Never. He is not going to walk into a Big Ten championship and beat the only undefeated team left with a team that has an incredible coach that has run through the Big Ten. Like, it's just not going to happen. He's going to lose by 20 points.
I don't think it'll be. Yeah. I mean, I agree that I'm going to take Oregon here too as well. I think Penn State has the ability to make this a close game for sure. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I mean, they have some of the best edge rushers, a good defense. They can throw the ball. They're the new offensive coordinator. I mean, they're a better team. But Oregon's been the best team by far, the most balanced team. So yeah, I'll go with Oregon here. I'm not going to just give them points. So, I'll take the regular spread here, but I'll go with Oregon as well.
Guys, is Tez Johnson back today? He's been out since the Ohio State game. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Me. And when I play this game, I'm definitely going to buy that hook. I'm getting rid of that. That hook kills me. So, man, I think it's going to be interesting. I love the Oregon defense. Nothing strikes fear me as a duck, as a mascot. So that's pretty impressive as well. I think Dan Lanning is the key here, and I'd like him to have his team ready. The only thing I'm wondering, I can't wait to hear what Peter says about this, that undefeated season, Peter, it hangs over you. It means something. And these guys have been ranked number one forever. So I'll shut the hell up and listen to you because you got some serious knowledge.
Well, I appreciate it. Nick, do we have time here, or you need to take us out?
Yeah, we got time. And we'll just
I think you've all said it. And Nate, I think it's a lot of what you touched on against Texas, and with the Texas game, and it's like circle games, right? Games on the calendar that you look forward to. James Franklin hasn't delivered, and I know what you mean. Like at a certain point, he will, but I'm not going to be the one. Why would this be the game? Like I'm not ready to go out on a limb and say that now he's going to buck the trend. And maybe Jay, to your point, that undefeated season will, kind of bite Oregon, but I don't think it's in this spot. I think they win and kind of continue their run as the number one team in the country.
All right. That's it for our first college hour. We are going to take a quick reset. Don't change the dial. We'll be back in just 1 minute, and we'll be talking NFL, breaking down all the NFL games for this weekend.
Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network. For a deeper dive without the jive, visit the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Let's get back to the show with the guys in the know, John, Jack, and Nate. It's Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
All right. Welcome back to hour 2 of the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. We are back to talk some NFL stuff. Before we get into the NFL stuff, we are going to be giving out some picks, and I want to remind everyone that this is for entertainment purposes only. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you live in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming, call 800-327-5050. Or visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org. If you live in Massachusetts, call 877-GHOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. If you live in New York, please gamble responsibly and call 1-800-NEXT-STEP if you're in Arizona, 522-4700 if you're in Kansas or New Hampshire, 888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. It's 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or visit opgr.org if you live in Oregon. This show is brought to you by Native Path. Big believers in the collagen around here. Big believers in the collagen. John takes it, Ann takes it, Jack takes it, Jay takes it. I should be taking it. Mitch is going to add it to his elaborate routine of supplements that keep him looking tip-top. we're big fans of it here. They're a big sponsor of the show. You can get up to 45% off and get started on your collagen journey for just as low as $21 using promo code Godzilla. So go to nativepath/Godzilla and lock in your collagen deals. Also, public service announcement for those of you that are listening for John today. You may have noticed he's not here. He is making moves in Doha right now. So he is out of the country, which is why he's off the show this week. But he wants you guys to know that he is no longer going to be on RAV. So if you've been watching Outside the Beltway between 6 and 7 daily, he is not there anymore. So you can still find him. He's still broadcasting. You can still watch and listen live from 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, along with his entire morning show from 6 to 10 Monday through Friday on the following platforms: John Frederick's radio app, which you can download, and all 27 radio stations found at johnfredericksradio.com. His show is also going to be on Getter Live, X Live, YouTube Live, Rumble Live. Give him a follow on TikTok at JF Radio Show. So he just wanted you to know where to find him now that he's not at RAV. He is widely available.
Widely.
Maybe
You know,
too
I've
wide.
never seen Outside the Beltway. I just never got the chance to tune in. But from what I hear, from what I hear from him is that it was a voice of reason in a climate controlled by illogic, I guess. So that's what I'm hearing just around from people. But again, you know, I just didn't have the opportunity. I've been busy the last 4 or 5 years, so I haven't had the opportunity to watch Outside the Beltway. But you know, you can still find him on all sorts of different platforms, just not on RAV.
Yeah. And he's never getting kicked off a Getter, so you'll always find him there.
Yeah, he's
all
the
right.
king
We're
of
good here. We're
King
good
of
right
Getter.
here. We like Getter.
Yeah.
All right. So we got some sort of coaching talk. It's always good for radio. A little Thursday night football reaction. But then we also want to talk about, I guess let's start with Thursday night football. It was a rare, incredible Thursday night football game. Great rivalry, Packers, Lions, high scoring, nuts, potentially like a postseason preview sort of thing. What were your guys' big takeaways on Thursday night football? Mine was just that it was awesome.
Look, the fourth down thing worked. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you're a statistical model guy, like if you're doing the probability models in sports, then you have to do it every single time, or it doesn't work. That's just how probability models work. You don't build a probability model and then tell the model that, 10 or 15% of the time when it actually matters, I actually don't want to do this. You could actually control for that in a probability model, but you wouldn't in this situation. So, whether that if that hadn't worked and the Packers had won that game because of another fourth down thing, this is their identity. And if you're going to play probability in sports, you have to play it to the maximum, or statistically, like mathematically, the concept does not work. Now, that said, this isn't a probability model. This is real life. And so human emotion and key decision making comes into play here. Certainly I wouldn't have done that because I'm not as ballsy as Dan Campbell, down there at the 20 something, just on a fourth and 1, right? It runs up the middle, gets that, and they end up winning. Great game. Lions are the team to beat in the Super Bowl, I think. But I don't know how you guys feel, but as someone who does a lot of probability stuff, if you don't adhere to the probability model 100% of the time, then it doesn't work. You might as well not use it at all and just intentional thinking.
It's like using like a blackjack strategy card and then just being like, nah, but my vibes tell me that I never hit 14 ever or whatever. I always, it's like, why even use the rest of the probability card? Like if you're just going to make a weird decision in the middle of it, then why even do it? Yeah.
I like that after he made the first down, the win probability went down 0.0001 or went the other way because he had more chances for turnovers at that point instead of just winning the game there. I know I pooped all over Thursday night football, but man, I mean, going back to that Ravens-Bengals game a few weeks ago, the Steelers-Browns in the snow, this game, even some of the good ones on Thanksgiving. Thursday night has been kind of weirdly good games this year. My biggest takeaway is Detroit is the most balanced. It's the best team in football. They've got the best coaching, especially right now, all across the board. Green Bay, up and comer. They are the youngest team in the NFL, and they show it at times, but they are so talented, and they're going to be around for a while. They can make some noise in the playoffs. I don't think this is their year, but they're on the doorstep, and they could be an Achilles heel that's a close game, in Detroit. So I mean, hats off to Green Bay here, but Detroit's the most balanced team. That's a big win. And right now expectations, which is crazy for a Detroit team that we know what they are historically. The expectation is, the whole thing or bust, basically. Yeah.
Super Bowl, yeah.
It's a great position that the GM and Campbell has put them in.
Yeah. Peter, thoughts?
I've been on Detroit all year, guys. I've loved them. They have 7 guys out on defense on Thursday night, still managed to figure out a way to put it together. I love the culture that Dan Campbell has built there. Guys, what I did on Monday night, I talk about my losses. I bought the hook. I took Detroit on a plain bet at 2.5, got rid of the 0.5 point, and then I parlayed Green Bay 9 and the over. And so I hit both bets, which never happens.
I had 3.5, bought the hook down, so it pushed. But I'll take. Hey, that's a win.
I'll push absolutely.
Did you have thoughts on the game?
Yeah, my takeaway is just that Detroit is awesome. They are, but that defense is starting to become a problem. The injuries that have accumulated. They were overperforming in general, very turnover dependent, which, as we know, is not something you can depend on. Now, it might not matter because their offense is so incredibly balanced, and just my biggest thing with them is just their personnel is they complement one another so well. Like you get Jameson Williams streaking across the field, and then Amon-Ra working that intermediate area. The running backs are perfect complementary pieces. The O-line, they prioritize an O-line, which is so good to see. And then, but you see that if anyone's going to beat them, it's going to be someone who can take advantage of those corners, and it's going to take some special quarterback play. Like you saw when Jordan Love is on, it's fun to watch. It's a little bit Herbert-ish, right? Like some of those seam throws. Like he's a power thrower of the football. He pushes the ball downfield probably more than he should, or at least more than what is standard in the NFL right now. Yeah, the Packers have a serious drop problem. We've had fun with their entire receiving core being made up of high-end twos, but at a certain point, you might need a premier guy to step up or go out and get one. Jaden Reed has shown signs, but again, still drop issues. So I look at the NFC and Philly and the Packers, off the top of my head, are the only offenses that I think can play in a shootout with the Lions. Everyone else, I don't think is going to be able to keep pace with them. So Detroit has a obviously, I'm not real shot to the Super Bowl.
Peter,
it's funny, Peter, that you
learn that touch pass. When he can fill in the gaps in some of his games as a professional, forget about it, because I love what you said. He throws that power pass beautifully, but he just doesn't know where to put a little air under it. Everything comes out a little too hard right now, but man, I look forward to watching him play. And Jay, that's a good point about the drops. We think of drops as a receiver stat, but sometimes when you have a quarterback who, like you said, you're a golfer. It's like clubs in the bag. If every throws a driver, those are hard to catch, especially, at short distances. So yeah, the little bit of nuance, we forget he hasn't played a ton of football, but you talk about quarterbacks with a very high ceiling. He's up there for me.
Yeah.
And you're right to bring up the defensive personnel injury issues. A lot of those guys, if they're not out for the season, they're out indefinitely. Doesn't seem like they're getting a ton of those guys back soon. That is going to matter in the playoffs. The Eagles are a formidable team. They have a great offense. There's some of these teams that I guess I don't know what's going on in the NFC South. I'm a Falcons fan. That's a mess. down there. I don't think anyone in the NFC West is really going to challenge them. But the Packers, the Vikings are still 10-2. I don't know if we know why exactly. There's some teams in the NFC that could cause them some issues, but I don't know. Dan Campbell, home field advantage, like been there before. They just their identity is to keep fighting, to keep scrapping. I could see them, making a run to the Super Bowl, and then in the Super Bowl, who knows? It's like a crapshoot.
Yeah,
I would say Philly is going to be. I mean, if I had to guess, that's the NFC Championship game, but that is going to be a fascinating chess match because that Philadelphia can attack the perimeter with AJ Brown, and that being kind of a weakness of the Lions' defense, like that. I'm really hoping that that's what we get.
Philadelphia is a brutally physical team, man. They are a brutally physical team. Look what they did to the Ravens, who I've always thought of the Ravens as kind of bullies, and they just got pushed all over the place.
Remember when Nick Sirianni was on the hot seat?
Yeah, he's not on the hot seat anymore. And that's I guess a good segue because there are some interesting moves sort of that are college and NFL adjacent. And there's one in particular that I wanted to talk about before we start breaking down these games, just because I don't really know how to make sense of it. Like, I don't know how to wrap my head around Bill Belichick being interested in a UNC football head coaching job. I just don't. It doesn't make it like, unless they're just unloading a dump truck full of cash and just dropping it on his driveway. Like, I don't understand what the appeal is of this job, other than to just signal that there's like some interest in you so that other teams will want to contact you about better jobs. I mean, does anyone have on this?
Yeah, does he have a connection down there? I don't know. Is his girlfriend, his 24-year-old girlfriend?
Oh, gosh.
She cheerlead down there? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
currently cheerleading down there.
He's 26 wins from Shula, like all time, right?
Let's go to college.
What is to be gained?
That makes no sense to me. I don't.
What is to be gained from UNC? Even if it's the most obscene chunk of cash you've ever seen in your life, it's like, I'm pretty sure you're going to be all right, Bill, financially, unless you've just been totally irresponsible buying, I don't know, very expensive cut-off sweatshirts. It's like you're going to have enough. The money should not be a motivation at this point. Go and cement yourself as the greatest head coach of all time. Take an NFL job. And the weirdest thing.
Okay, so
real quick is like college coaching now is so much more GMing. And what is the worst, criticism of Bill Belichick? It's like, you're not even coaching. It's not playing to his skill set. I don't know. It's just bizarre.
Okay, so here's a wrinkle in this. And you're right. God, he's such an awful general manager. He would be so bad at building a roster, especially like a roster of college kids. Could you imagine Bill Belichick like recruiting, like going into like an 18-year-old's home and being like, like
we don't really understand.
Just like not making eye contact and drinking tepid water and just like trying to
let's move on to Cleveland.
Munching on banana bread or whatever. So Ollie Connolly, if you've ever read Read Optional, that Substack, which is a really good Substack, he is reporting per Twitter, I guess, that there is an unusual condition in the negotiation if Belichick were to get this job or to be offered it, and it's that his son Stephen Belichick would be named the head coach in waiting. So if you believe that, then he's just taking a job for a year or two to get his son a head coaching job in college football at a big program. I don't know how true. Yeah, what could go wrong? I don't know how true that is, but I mean, Ollie Connolly is like he is like a football reporter. So we'll see.
What an incredible move!
It's a publicity stunt, right? He's just announcing to everyone that he wants to coach.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you feel if you're Steve and you just back into that job because of your dad? That doesn't seem fair to him. I don't understand that.
We should probably ask LeBron James' son how he felt about the NBA getting the first round pick.
Yeah, and Steve, I mean, he's with Washington. He's coaching.
I mean, he's no stranger to the nepotism. I mean, he was on the Patriots staff forever.
Yeah.
People love Steve. People love Belichick now that he goes on like Pat McAfee and stuff. He's actually relatable. I could see him recruiting. You might, whose dad wouldn't send you to Belichick that you might not want to go. But your dad's going to be like, yeah, take him. Go. Whip him into shape.
Yeah.
I mean, from a UNC standpoint, I also don't understand being like, okay, so what we do is we hire the oldest coaches we could ever think
Mac
of.
Brown.
Like we're gonna go from Mac Brown. Like,
yeah.
Right. Soon, like in 5 years, they're gonna be like, we're talking to Nick Saban. We think he might be a good option here. Like, I mean, hire someone who's like not 85.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a real thing too. And yeah, it's like, to speak to Peter's point, it's like he's 26 wins away from Shula or whatever, and he's 70. He's going to be 73 soon, like before this next season starts. So like he's 70. How many more years does Bill Belichick have left in the tank to be, sort of like screwing around with these like really weird offers? Like, is he going to coach till he's 85?
It would be sick to see him in college, though. I mean, that would be kind of fun.
Just like
just UNC makes.
With Jordans,
with
like wearing all Jordan's gear all the time, just the freshest shoes.
That's right.
Outfits,
or just going like
go 500. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll get that money. Hey, if you think about it, there's no pressure there. You're not taking over a blue blood. I mean, you would just.
I guess my mind also goes to like liability here. Like, we've seen Bill Belichick play pretty fast and loose with the NFL rules in a professional sport that's not typically known for like a lot of cheating scandals. And now he's moving to UNC, to college football. Like, that man can get pretty loose pretty fast out there in the NCAA. Like, he might leave that program behind and just shamble.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, like what could go wrong on that end?
Nothing.
All right, we got some games to break down. We're going to lead with Falcons-Vikings. Two teams with playoff aspirations, I think, still, even though the NFC South continues to get weirder by the minute, it seems like. I know that Jack is accustomed to that sort of environment. I can't pull up the point spreads because my internet is lagging. Does anyone have the point spread for this game?
6.
6.
Yeah.
All right, so Vikings minus 6.
It opened at 4.5.
4.5, and then steamed up to 6 for the Vikings.
Total is 45.5.
And this disrespect for the Vikings has to stop. You said has playoff aspirations. They have 2 losses.
Yeah, but they're like not like a good team.
I mean, they're pretty darn good. I mean, they've lost to what? Detroit and what? The Rams. Pretty good team. Quarterback's getting hot too.
So you like the Vikings this week?
I didn't say all that yet, but yeah, maybe. I think I do. You know what? Sam Darnold is playing well. Justin Jefferson is amazing. And Atlanta has, I know it's a revenge game for your boy, for Kirk Cousins coming back, but he is in a slump. And that's to say the least in this 3-game losing streak. I don't think Atlanta has a shot. I'm going Minnesota. Tease them up to take
this
12.
is
Minus 12 if you want.
This is the time. This is the type of game that the Falcons win. Yeah. Actually, because it's not a game they should win, and it's a game that they like their matchup's not any good. I mean, they're just like, this is just a situation in which Atlanta like gets a win, and you're like, maybe the Falcons are turning around, maybe they're coming together, and then they'll lose like next week, and they're just going to end up going, 9-8 or whatever. This season. So I mean, my head would say the Vikings. I don't see any reason the Falcons, they haven't really shown anything the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to go with, I think Atlanta, just based on the fact that this is what the Falcons do. They win a game like this and then they lose to the Panthers. Like, that's just Atlanta in a nutshell. So for no other reason than I know how the Atlanta Falcons think. I know the institutional history of that team. This is a game that they win, but they probably got to lose.
Well, like, Kirk Cousins isn't going to keep throwing like 1 million interceptions per game, like forever. Like, that's just like, I mean, he can have this bad streak, but he can't just keep throwing like 4 interceptions like every game from now on. Can he, Peter?
No, the thing that I'm kind of left thinking about is like Kevin O'Connell has proven that he can put anyone under center and win games, or at least make the team competitive. And he worked with Kirk Cousins for 2 seasons. And I mean, that is like a pretty close relationship. Like, you talk about going into a week game planning, talking about the challenges that a defense poses and what you like and don't like. Like, O'Connell knows how Kirk Cousins wants to play. He knows what he doesn't like to play. And added to that is like the Vikings run a defense that is very multiple, that will do things differently week to week. And so it's like you combine as deep a knowledge of any player's, strengths and weaknesses with a defense that actually might have the capability under Flores to implement things to stress that. And I think it's just a tough matchup for Kirk and company. So give me the Vikings.
The Vikings.
Peter's
are
right.
number
I'm
one in
changing
the
my
NFL
pick.
against the run. The Vikings are number one in the NFL against the run, and so it's going to have to be Kirk Cousins. And I love what Peter said.
Bijan's coming off his career game, though, right? Over 100 yards. I mean, Atlanta ran that pretty well.
I changed my pick. I like what Peter said. Vikings win this game.
All right.
I feel like we're like at the bottom with the Falcons, so I'm going to ride with the Falcons here. I mean, 6 points just feels like value to me. I mean, there were two sort of like really bad losses that everyone's sort of hanging on to. So, if there's a spot to sort of buy low on like the Falcons, I think it's like probably now.
Yeah, they lose by 3.
You can think much less of them.
And Nate, I know you're watching because fantasy-wise, and then Kyle Pitts is just falling off the grid again. Just does nothing. Looks like the most amazing player for 3 weeks, and
then just junk. Yeah,
See you later.
I mean, so you got to be locked in. A good way to lock in if you're struggling with your focus is with Healthy Cell Focus. Huge positive impact on your ability to concentrate and focus. All natural formula. Gel packs, just like the REM sleep. You just pop it in, and then you are ready to go. It's how John picks all his winners. It's how he stays so sharp for his various media obligations, his hectic travel schedule, and his burgeoning social media career. So, John needs all the help he can get with a Healthy Cell Focus. Jack, are you on the focus train yet?
Huh? Oh yeah. I'm powered by all sorts of Healthy Cell stuff. Nobody focuses like I do. I wake up focused.
Oh, you're like, what? What?
Yeah, I've never been more focused in my entire life. And that's thanks to Healthy Cell, because before that I was not as focused. I've always been a pretty focused guy. I mean, I would say even from a young age, like I could lock in. But not anything like lately after taking all that Healthy Cell. So I mean, it's just you rip open the little goo, toss it back, and then I'll just start running some probability models and talking about Dan Campbell, and I can't be more focused. I'm really focused on how I let my.
Yeah.
You want me to keep going? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
So I'm really focused on how I let my YouTube TV subscription lapse. I don't know why. I guess I canceled that credit card or something. And I was really pumped to watch a whole bunch of stuff yesterday and could not. So now I got to figure out how to get YouTube TV back so that I can watch all these games this weekend. I mean, it's not that hard. You just put in another credit card, but that's the kind of edge you get with Healthy Cells, subscribing to YouTube TV over and over again.
So if you want that kind of focus, go to healthycell.com/Godzilla, use promo code Godzilla and get 20% off and get focused like me and Jack right now. All right. We got more games on the schedule. Jets, Dolphins. This is a game that I think that we thought might have been meaningful when we were looking at the schedule. Often we see these late season games and we think, yes, the AFC East, little playoff preview. And that's not the way the season has gone. For either team, really, but particularly the Jets. So Miami's a 6-point favorite. I mean, I think it feels like at this point in the season, you get these teams that sort of had like real high aspirations, Niners, Jets, and then they sort of come out flat. And it just feels like to me, and this spread reflects that, is like the Jets are just done. Like they're just making business decisions. They're trying to protect their bodies. They're not really interested in anything sort of moving forward. Like there is no moral victory to be had in these last couple of weeks for a team like the Jets, or even maybe for the 49ers. Miami's a 6-point favorite. What do we make of this game? I mean, do you just take Miami and just eat the narrative of it's a lost season?
I think so. Do you think that Aaron Rodgers is just getting ready to go to Minnesota to be the next quarterback over there, follow Brett Favre's footsteps over there? You got Sam Darnold, 1-year deal. You let him go in and he gets to motivate the young kid from Michigan. That's the only storyline I'm looking at. Aaron Rodgers is he auditioning for other teams? Because he's not going to be with the Jets next year. I don't know if you watched his Netflix documentary. It was I didn't watch it, but that's the only narrative. It's got to be Dolphins, right? But 6 points is a lot.
Yeah, maybe Aaron Rodgers should interview for the UNC job. Maybe he can get that. So the only reason,
too young.
Yeah, that's right. The only reason I put this game on the schedule, like on the run sheet, was that I'm in this like one of those pools where you like pick a team or two every week, and if you lose, you're out. At this point, if you lose, you're out. And I'm still in. I'm in last place, but there's only like 20 people in it, but I'm last. So everybody else has to lose for me to win. And I don't have a lot of teams left to pick because that's how it goes. That's like the rules. So I had to take the Dolphins, and I don't know if that was a good pick. So I put it on the run sheet to see if it was. So you guys can tell me how you feel about the Dolphins winning this game.
Well, I feel pretty strongly that this is a Dolphins win. If you saw the appeals court uphold the TikTok ban yesterday, I've been trying to work on my migration to YouTube, and my first video is planning on being a Mike McDaniel deep dive. So I've been, running through the McDaniel cycle, and this is a game he wins, right? It's going to be 70 degrees in Florida tomorrow, much nicer than Green Bay. No expectations. This is one where the Dolphins just do what they do and beat bad teams. And, when they have to play a winning team, it'll be a totally different story.
And the Jets have some significant injuries. I don't think Hall's playing. Who cares? I mean, I'm going to bet Miami, but really, let's go. So,
Yeah.
We've got better games than this.
I mean, yeah, this is
spoken like a true degenerate.
Hold on,
Who
Jack.
cares?
You're still in a
we have better
survivor.
stuff to talk about.
Hold on. What survivor pool are you in that you're still in and in last place? Because that's the best survivor pool I've ever heard in my life. That's crazy.
I don't know.
Most people are on like week 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's some Virginia guy that my dad got me in. I just got an email one day.
I like it.
So some sort of Virginia Democratic Party type of thing. I think I can't remember, but yeah. So you don't get eliminated. You don't get eliminated for the first like 8 or 9 weeks, and then you start getting eliminated. And I've been able to stay alive. I think Anne is also still in that pool. She's alive. John is out, of course. He's been out for a couple weeks. Yeah, Nate was out, but yeah. So there's 21 people still in, and I was so bad at picking when you couldn't get eliminated that I am in last of the people who are still in it.
Oh,
so
they
for me
you.
to
Got it.
yeah. So for me to win first place, everyone else has to lose. For the like I have to be the only one who wins out. But look,
So
miracles
you should probably
do happen.
pick the Jets this week then.
Yeah, well,
Knock
I got the
them all out.
Dolphins this
Yeah,
week,
yeah,
so
yeah.
give me the Dolphins, and then because things start getting tricky, because now you can't pick a team, but you can like pick a team twice or something. So we're getting to the part of the season where people are gonna have to start picking like the Jags, and just hoping something fun happens. So you never know what happens. You just got to stay alive 1 week at a time. Right now we're focused on week 14 and the Miami Dolphins.
All right. Next game on the schedule, Raiders Buccaneers. Bucks are 6.5-point favorite. Talking about teams with sort of lost seasons, the Raiders look like they're just going through the motions at this point. Tampa's still in the NFC South hunt. I mean, they're still there, 6-6, rocking along. I guess like I'll just sort of like lead with my analysis, which is like Baker Mayfield stinks as a favorite. He does not cover very often. I think he's 38% as a favorite in his career. 6.5 points just feels too rich. I know that Vegas is a bad team, but it's not like the Bucks are like a great team. 6 points just feels like too many. So I'll take the 6.5 gladly if it moves up to 7, like automatically. I don't know. It just feels like too much point spread, when we start thinking about these narratives too hard about sort of, this game is meaningful for Tampa and it's not meaningful for the Raiders. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yes. 6.5 points. You got to think like spreads like that are reserved for some of the best teams in the league. And that's not what Tampa is. Tampa is gritty. They've gone a lot of injuries, overcame it, but yeah, like they're not blowing anybody out. I like what they can do, running the football. And that is interesting about Baker when he's favored. But I mean, the Raiders are bad, but they're still, it's the NFL. Like, the 6.5 point spreads are a little bit rare as far as like, I don't think it's a 6.5 point difference. And the last time we saw the Raiders, they were taking the Chiefs down to the wire. So, I mean, the Bucs barely escaped, Bryce Young's revenge tour last week. I think this is one that, it's kind of like a microcosmic example of their season. It's like it's close and they survive and they just won't go away in that NFC South. So they win, but they don't cover.
Yeah, 6.5 is way too big for this team. We just talked about something like 6 points for the 5.5 or 6 points for the Falcons Vikings, and here we are talking about how the Bucs get the same spread. The Raiders are not that, like, they're not like the worst team in the league, and the Bucs have 6 wins. So I'm with Peter on this one. I mean, you the smart money has to be on just taking the points because it's too many to lay here for a team that does not blow teams out.
No, I mean, the first 3 games we've had have all been over 6 point spreads. These are tough to handicap, but hey, it doesn't have to be a blowout. I could see 14-7, and then with one Brock Bowers touchdown for the Raiders, and that's what I'm going to go with. I for whatever reason, Jay said it weeks and weeks ago on the NFL. If you think the team's going to win, bet on that team. 6 is tough, but the Raiders aren't a good team at all, and Tampa can flash. So I'm going to go with Tampa here. 14-7.
I like the Raiders. Important to let all of you know that this programming is brought to you by Healthy Cell. Healthy Cell, big time sponsor. Actually, not Healthy Cell. Native Path. Native Path is a big time sponsor. We love the collagen here. Jay is a big collagen guy. Mitch adding it. Jack collagen. Me collagen. John collagen. And collagen. Everybody loves collagen. Use promo code Godzilla when you're at Native Path. Go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Feel better, live better. 45% off. Get started for as low as $21 on your collagen journey. Okay, now we got some big games.
Great stocking stuffer. Nothing says I love you like getting your significant other collagen.
Yeah, notice some things, and this might help your skin.
Manjaro. Okay. They love anything that makes them. Hey, you need to be prettier and skinnier.
So just think about
that.
Good
luck with that, boys. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, collagen. Like just dump it in the stocking. It'll be. I
like to put a spatula in there.
Yeah, perfect.
Right.
Maybe some Ozempic
and some deodorant and some.
Browns. Steelers.
Yeah, what? We don't endorse any of this. We're just having fun.
Dryer sheets.
Browns. Steelers. Jameis Winston is coming off one of the wildest games of his career, and it would probably be the wildest game of anybody else's career as well. It was just a crazy game in general against the Broncos, playing the Steelers, who just continue to be successful. They just continue to be rock solid. I know. I mean, we're going to have to start with Mitch here. This is your wheelhouse. Pittsburgh, again, we're just seeing these big spreads. 6.5 point favorite again. 6.5 point home favorite against a very weird Browns team. Mitch, are you confident in the Steelers' ability to win a game they should win here?
Well, it's all going to come down to the power of prayer, because Jameis Winston said that he is hoping that God next week won't allow him to throw pick sixes. So I'm hoping there's more Pittsburgh fans praying. So there's a lot of that going on first. Jameis Winston is absolutely the X factor. He was in that snowy Thursday night game where the Steelers lost. We've been joking about revenge games, but for the Steelers, this is one. You need to at least split against them. You're at home this week, coming off a huge win against the Bengals, where the offense, put up over 500 yards of offense. The Steelers are going into a stretch where they need to pile this win on, because their stretch is crazy after this game. It's Philadelphia, and then on 3 days rest, basically they play the Chiefs. And then they play the Ravens. So in an 11-game span, they play 3 of the best teams in the league. So they have to win this game. Because you could see a scenario where they lose the next 3, or 1 out of 3. How are they going to get it done? I think the defense, the pressure is going to be. You expect T.J. Watt and company. Alex Highsmith is back. Herbig is coming off a huge game, so I think they'll get some pressure on Winston. Winston didn't make many mistakes in the first game, so you're hoping you get a little bit of that. But this is a game the Steelers should, with recent film, be able to dominate and kind of show off that they are legit one of the top 7 teams in the league, depending on who's ranking them. But a must win because of the gauntlet schedule. And I don't like throwing out must wins, but they have to get this one. And I think they
Mitch,
do.
how big is getting Highsmith back?
It's huge. The Steelers they're 4-0 with him in the lineup, so he's huge. It's the depth because they love to run a 4-man rotation, and if they can keep a 4-man pass rush going with rotating in the edge rushers, that's a big deal. The less they blitz, the better they are. And they got gashed last week. It was a great win, but they had to score 44 points to beat the Bengals. So their defense wants to show off a little bit too. And also with Myles Garrett talking about the deep defensive player of the year runs through him. There's a lot of smack talk between Pickens and the secondary. So there's a bad blood. This is a fun one. This is that AFC North fun one. And you'll get to watch it on HBO Max because they're on the Hard Knocks, which was great. But there's no love lost here.
Peter, thoughts?
I mean, Jameis's on-field career has been what? Giveth and taketh away. It's always something positive and then something negative. And I think that's kind of what you're going to get here, right? You had the magical snow game and the power of prayer, and then he's probably going to, taketh away right now, depending on how you look at it. Like, I just don't – I think the Steelers, I hope they grasp the gravity of this moment because, Mitch, you said it, like, this 3-game stretch right here is going to be the difference between them being, the 3 seed or, another year of the wild card and, having to go to Buffalo or something like that. So, yeah, this is one where you said it, must win at home. Steeler magic. I think they get it done.
Yeah, I mean, it's a must-win game, but I think there's a fair argument, for the alternative angle, which is this is a pretty clear, kind of maybe look-ahead spot for a team like the Browns to sort of sneak up and do something because, if Mitch is already fixated on this 11-day stretch of football against 3 really great teams, I'm sure that some other players on the Steelers roster are probably also thinking about that upcoming stretch of football. So, I mean, I think that there's a clear sort of, maybe they are a little flat in this game because they know they have such a big stretch, sort of meaningful stretch coming up.
Mike Tomlin, baby, he's not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the clip where he got in the face of one of his players that was fighting, and he said, "Hey, while you were out there fighting, the clock was running, and we're trying to run our 2-minute offense." And the guy said, "Hey, this man hit me in the face." He says, and he started looking away, and Tomlin got right in his face and said, "Look at me," and he said, "This is bigger than you, right? This is bigger than you." And he hit him in the chest and said, "Let's go." I'm thinking Jameis Winston is going to get schemed out of this game. He's going to throw 3 interceptions. They're not going to be able to run the ball well. I'm thinking that the Pittsburgh defense. I like this game. I like the Steelers.
Jack, final thoughts?
6.5 points. That's what I'm looking at. I mean,
another one.
God, what are we doing? Can we get a 3-point spread? I mean, I'm just going to stick with the 6.5 point analysis again. I mean, this is a divisional game. The Browns probably going to lose, but I mean, I don't think they get blown out here. So I'll take the Browns 6.5.
All right. Well, you're in luck. We were asking for some shorter point spreads, and ask and you shall receive. This is a big NFC West game. Seahawks are currently leading the Cardinals in that division, but with a win, the Cardinals will suddenly be in the sort of driver's seat of the NFC West as well. So this is a super meaningful game. Arizona is a 2.5-point favorite.
Speaking of bad football, let's talk about this.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of like what Seattle's doing.
Flashes.
It's like the last team standing. I mean, it's a joke, this NFC West. I think the Rams are going to win this division. Geno Smith. He drives every week.
I mean,
he's 7-5 and he's in first place, and the Cardinals are in second place. They're 6-6. This is a big game. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
This is a huge game. And I mean, the Seahawks defense has really come together and gelled lately. They're looking a lot better. I mean, neither team is pretty, right? I mean, the Seahawks had a pretty gritty win against the Jets, and the Cardinals had a pretty gruesome loss against the Vikings. So, I mean, both teams are sort of look like they're, 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back, at best. I think that's fair to say, but I don't know. I'm still interested in this game. I mean, Peter, does Arizona like take control of the division here? As weird as
I
that
mean,
is to say.
They scored 6 points 2 weeks ago against the Seahawks. I mean, Seahawks scored 16. How many times this year are you going to score 16 points and win a football game? It's the NFC West is weird. Kind of to Jay's point, where like I don't think there's a clear front runner. Weirdly, I think the Niners are the only team that you look at and say like they're kind of out of it, just because just so many injuries. So much going on there, so much turmoil. But yeah, like I don't know. I mean, I think to say this game is anything other than a toss-up is crazy. What I would say is like what I saw with Mike McDaniel in Baltimore is the defense takes time, but once players get it down, he has a system of communication where when it's humming, it's one of the best in the league. And I think you're starting to see that a little bit with Seattle. I don't think they're going to hold them to 6 points again, but I think that they can pose real problems. And I think the Seahawks are going to start to maybe not pull away, but I think they get the win and separate themselves at least from the Cardinals.
Some betting trends that do not favor the Cardinals here. Seahawks have won 5 straight meetings against Arizona. The under has hit in the last 5 of the Seahawks games, 5 of the last 6 Seahawks games. That speaks to Peter's point about Mike McDonald. I think that defense is pretty formidable. Cardinals are 4-8 in their last 12 home games. I think all the trends speak to a Seattle cover here. So I don't know. I think the Cardinals are still trying to figure out how to do this, like how to be a good team, how to win games like this, how to win games at home. I think Seattle probably ends up winning this game, and they end up kind of separating themselves in the division a little bit and starting to take control of the NFC West.
Jeff, the irony
NFC
of
West,
that
right?
stat, though, is Arizona's also 4-2 this year at home. 4-8 in the last 12 at home and 4-2 this year. I mean, try to figure any sort of trends. I don't know.
No, I think Peter hit it talking about Seattle's defense. If you go and look at their rankings, it doesn't fly off the charts. But over the last couple of weeks, Leonard Williams has been a force multiplier. 2.5 sacks a couple weeks ago, a couple sacks, and had the return for a touchdown against the Jets last week.
Yeah.
So their defense is just playing exponentially better than they were at the beginning of the year, and I think that's a difference where everything leans to Seattle. I'll go with them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the under is probably the safe play. I'll be rooting for Seattle just because I like the team, but I think the under is probably the safe play. I mean, I think that we look at both of those teams and their stats don't come off the page in terms of defensive stats, but if you really sort of isolate them from like the last month, both defenses have been playing exceptionally well. So I kind of like a low scoring battle myself as well. All right, another close spread. This one just feels fishy.
Yes. Yes. It does.
Buffalo Bills are a 3.5-point road favorite against the Rams, who, kind of limp into this 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win, 1 loss. They can't really seem to get any momentum. They're 6-6. I mean, Buffalo's looked so good, and they're only a 3.5-point favorite. I know that it's a long road trip, but this is one of those games where it just feels like they are begging you to take Buffalo, and then LA does something crazy and wins. I mean, am I alone in just thinking that this looks like the fishiest line I've seen in a while?
No, you're completely right. You're complete. But you know what Matt Stafford is? He is an old quarterback. You know what old quarterbacks need? To stay on their feet. And when their pass protection is on, if you watch the Stafford play, it's lights out. It's completely different than their record. And I think that because the pass rush for Buffalo is not that insane. So I'm thinking the spread's a little bit closer here, because if you get that version of Stafford, you have a competitive game. Fishy for sure. I'm going Buffalo. I'm going to go with it, but I know what Vegas is doing to me.
Yeah.
Now, and me and Jay, we should do a Jay and Mitch and call it the Hookin' Podcast, because I'm going to have to buy that hook. I'm going to have to buy that damn hook. But
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have to go with Buffalo, but something stinks here. Something's awry.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like an automatic Rams spot for me. I mean, it's just
Right.
the offense is pretty spunky. Buffalo's already clinched the AFC East. Cross country road trip. It just seems like, what are you I mean, if you were going to stub your toe, it's after you've already clinched the division, I would think.
Guys, Buffalo's plus 17 in the turnover margin, which is it, right? Plus 17. Matthew, the thing about Matt Stafford is that ball's out. And it is he fits it into tight windows and also throws it to some of the guys on the other side every once in a while. So I don't know, man. I'm with you, though. This is one of those where you circle this game at the beginning of the week and it opens up at 3.5 and you think it's going to run up to 6 and it stays right at 3.5 because all the sharp money is on the Rams.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, Mitch was hinting at it when Stafford is protected. That's a big part of it, but also when he has his pass catchers back. And since he's had Kupp and Nakua, he's second in the league in touchdown passes. Like a slow statistical start to the year, but now it's weird because it hasn't necessarily coincided with Rams wins. Like they haven't ripped off the stretch of wins, but. Yeah, I mean, at home now, the Bills got it. Like they went to the West Coast and beat Seattle earlier this week. But I mean, it's later in the year now. Maybe you're starting to wear. I think it's a close game, but I also think that Josh Allen. I mean, whoever said about the turnover differential? I mean, that's the dream, right? Josh Allen with all of his highs and none of the lows is as good as anyone in the league, and so I think the Bills win, but definitely a spunky performance from the Rams.
All right.
I'll take the over.
You'll take the over? All right.
Yeah. This point spread stinks. Just give me the over.
This is, okay. So next game on the schedule is Bears-Niners. We've talked a little bit about the Niners. Just seem like a team that's sort of packing it in. They're a 3-point favorite at home against the Chicago Bears. I guess for context, I keep looking at this and my knee jerk is just you got to take the Bears +3. I mean, San Francisco looks like a team that's given up the offensive weapons. Trent Williams looks like he might not play again this season. The running back injuries out. And then you look at Chicago and the record isn't great, but they lose by 3 to Detroit. They lose by 3 to the Vikings. They lose by 1 to Green Bay in the last 3 games. And you're going to sit here and tell me that the 49ers should be a 3-point favorite when they haven't lost a game by more than 3 to any of those 3 teams? That's crazy. It doesn't make any sense to me.
This game opened at 5.5.
Yeah.
Instead of 3.5. I'm with you. The Bears don't know how to win yet, but man, they've been all over it. They have been extremely close. They're really horrible at time management, clock management, all the small details that really matter when it comes down to winning a game. But if for Mitch and our hook, man, we keep the hook this time and play the Bears.
Hooking, baby.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Go.
Coach gets fired, you get that bump. I'll take the Bears.
You always get the bump.
Yeah. You always get one bump. Just 1 week, then it kind of all goes back to normal, but you get that 1 week bump, so I'll take the Bears.
One good bump deserves another, right? You got to keep them going. You got to keep them rolling and rolling. I think the Bears win this game because they have something to play for. They're playing for a rookie, the future of the franchise. They're not stuck in this Eberflus hole. And the 49ers don't seem, they had Super Bowl expectations, right? So I don't know. I think motivation's here. Sorry, Peter. I didn't mean to
no, not at all.
To jump in there. But yeah, someone go with the Bears here.
Let's just can we just televise a therapy session of a couple of these teams' fans and see who's sadder? And whoever's sadder gets the win. We'll just give it to them. But I this is just the disappointment bowl. I don't want to watch this. This is just going to be depressing.
All right, we got Sunday Night Football. Big AFC West matchup. Kansas City Chiefs are a 4-point favorite against the Chargers, who, have been competent. And all Kansas City does is just keep winning these ridiculous end of game scenarios. At this point, I'm not really sure I can buy that they're a 4-point favorite. This is another one that feels a little weird to me. Maybe Chargers are the right play just right off the bat with my gut. What do you guys see in this Sunday Night Football matchup, Peter?
give me more Justin Herbert. I love Justin Herbert with competent. And the Sunday night cameras, like, there's something about it where, like, when Herbert is on, right? Like he was the last time he was on Sunday Night Football against the Bengals, and you get those, NBC slow-mo shots of a football that's just impossibly spinning as tight as it is. Like, I love Herbert in primetime. I love Herbert and Harbaugh. That said, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they get Pacheco back. And I just don't think that the Chargers receivers – I mean, the Chargers scored 10 points the last time they went up against the Chiefs. Like, they're making it work with Johnston and McConkey, but that Chiefs secondary is special, and you're going to need – I think the next step for the Chargers is kind of a premier wide receiver one, because right now, as good as Herbert is playing, as well as Herbert is playing, I don't think they quite have the firepower to go up against that Chiefs.
Yeah, look, Chargers had 4 picks against Kirk Cousins, right? Wasn't that the story last week? Chiefs are 0-6 in their last 6 games ATS. Like, how can you keep taking at least ATS? How can you keep taking Kansas City when you know that the handicapping is so off for this team because they they win every week, but they're not that good. And if they had lost a couple of these close games and were like 8-3, this spread might be Chargers +1, pick them, whatever. So you're getting 4 points based on the fact that the Chiefs keep winning by a field goal. I'll take the 4. I don't know if I'd take 2, but I'd take the 4.
Right. You just can't keep winning like this. Like, this isn't to say that Chiefs aren't a good team, but like this idea that you can just keep just stringing wins together because of like weird snaps and blocked field goals and just crazy end of game stuff. Like, you just, at some point, that's not sustainable. Like, we know that about like stats.
Well, and what you know about good coaching too is I just believe Andy Reid is in their ear, basically counting these as losses, like basically to them, like, hey, we need to get going. And what's changed? And Peter brought it up. I'm watching Isaiah Pacheco. He slowly got inserted back last week. If they can somehow get a running game going, this team is good. They're on the it's like I'm looking at it tonight or on Sunday night, and is this the implosion of this team? Just like the Eagles and the Steelers from 2020, where they had these like good records, but they were frauds. Or is this where they figure it out? I'm scared. I don't know where they're going to go because the coaching and the quarterback are so good, and they're going to have a running game that I know it's 0-4 at ATS, but I'm going with the Chiefs. I just think with the running game, they're going to start figuring stuff out, which I hate.
Guys, listen to these stats for the Chiefs. The Chiefs' overall offense is 15th against the rush, 19th against the pass. Overall 15th, 19th on the rush, 12th against the pass. The Chiefs' defense overall is 8th. They're 3rd against the rush, 23rd against the pass. And that's Spagnuolo. And everything they've done has been meddling. This team should not be 11-1. And you bet on them, and they never cover. This seems like, Mitch, what you said is I'm waiting for that game. Like, all of a sudden, I mean, they don't even score 30 points. I think they scored 30 points twice this year. Mahomes has looked pedestrian. He's missing open receivers. It's crazy. I'm wondering if it isn't the running game that kind of sparks them. I don't know what to make of it, but man, I like the points. And
all right.
I hate betting against Patrick Mahomes. I can't even sit still. It's just, he runs and spins. He's going to slide. He doesn't slide. He picks up 50 more yards and then throws it behind his back to somebody who's open.
Couple more minutes here, and the last game on the schedule. Bengals are a 5.5-point favorite in Jerry World, taking on the Cowboys. I mean, I'm not good. This is just a game the Bengals roll. The Bengals are like a good team that's been unlucky, and the Cowboys are like a crappy team that stinks. So, I mean, that's just like my bottom line on it. Like the Bengals, to speak to sort of the randomness of football, we've watched the Chiefs win all these 1-score games. Meanwhile, the Bengals are 1-7 in 1-score games. They could easily have a better record. So I like the Bengals to roll here. Quick picks from everybody.
Bengals, I think it's clear, aren't going to have hot streak. Playoffs are out of the picture. They're dead in the water. I think it's now you're at a point where if the floor falls out and they just lose out, then you're going to be looking at Zach Taylor. So it's a question of how much fight do they still have, and what are the optics like for this final stretch here?
Jack?
Optics suck for Dallas too. Mike McCarthy's gone after this season. Bengals roll.
Mitch?
Unless Mike McCarthy shocks the world, makes the playoffs, and goes on a run, because they are mathematically alive. That was the worst part about Thanksgiving, was Dallas stayed mathematically alive for this thing, and they're going to do it because they have something to play for. Bengals have nothing. Dallas.
I hope you're wrong, Mitch. Jay, final word on this game?
Look at the total, man. I think they're going to score some points. And the ball will be turned over. The turnover differential, Bengals are -1, Cowboys are -7. It's going to get ugly. I'll look at the total, score some points.
Well, it's been a fun show. If you're enjoying the sports talk and you're enjoying especially Jay Delsing, Golf with Jay Delsing is up next at the top of the hour. Jay, who do you have on today?
Guys, I got Rocky Sickman, who was a 22-year-old Marine that was held captive for 444 days in Iran back when he was 45 years ago, when this Iran crisis happened. He's also with Folds of Honor. Folds of Honor started Folds of Honor Friday. So golf now starts with national anthems when we play. So it's super cool. This guy is an American hero. I know it's kind of odd for a golf show to have him on there, but he's a cool dude and he's an American hero, and I love this guy.
All right, so be sure and check out Golf with Jay Delsing on this same channel. So don't change the dial. If you like what we're doing, thank you all for joining us. I'm Nate Perry, Jack Fredericks, Mitch Rogers, Peter Kriebel, and Jay Delsing. Thank you all, and good luck this weekend. We'll see you next week.